Hello, everybody. My name is Arshad Nadeem Khan, PGT English, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Dhana. Today I am going to teach you chapter 5 of the textbook Flamingo. The name of the chapter is Indigo, written by Louis Fisher. First of all, let us know the author of this chapter, Louis Fisher. Louis Fisher was an American journalist, writer. He was born in Philadelphia in the year 1896. He served as a volunteer in the British Army between 1918 and 1920. Fisher made a career as a journalist and wrote for the New York Times, the Saturday Review, and for European and Asian publications. He was also a member of the faculty at Princeton University. The following is an excerpt from his book, The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. The book has been reviewed as one of the best books ever written on Gandhi by Times Educational Supplement. It would be interesting for you to know that the Hollywood film Gandhi, directed by Richard Attenborough, is largely based on Louis Fisher's book, The Life of Mahatma Gandhi. In the following excerpt, Louis Fisher describes how the Champaran episode of 1917 became a turning point in Mahatma Gandhi's life. Mahatma Gandhi himself described the 1917 Champaran movement as the first experiment of satyagraha in India. When I first visited Gandhi in 1942, writes Louis Fisher, at his ashram in Sevagram in central India, Gandhi said, I will tell you how it happened that I decided to urge the departure of the British. It was in 1917. So you understand that the seeds of the British departure from India was sown in the year 1917. Till that time, probably Gandhiji or no one else had imagined that someday the British will leave this country and India will become an independent nation. But something happened there in Champaran in 1917 which gave Gandhiji hope that now British could be ousted. So before we read the chapter further, let us find out what were the issues in Champaran. The main issue in Champaran was that most of the arable land in Champaran was owned by the British landlords and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. The British landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20ths or 15% of their holdings with indigo. The entire indigo harvest was to be surrendered as rent. This was done by a long term contract. In the meantime, Germany developed synthetic indigo. The landlords did not now need the Indian tenants to grow indigo. So the landlords obtained agreements from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. Many peasants signed and paid willingly because the old arrangement was irksome to them. Others who went to court were threatened, intimidated by the British landlords' thugs. Peasants came to know of the synthetic indigo and they demanded their money back. Thus arose the conflict between the British landlords and the Indian peasants. Gandhiji arrived in Champaran at this point. Now, how Gandhiji arrived in Champaran is again very interesting. Gandhiji himself recollects that he had never heard of Champaran, that there ever existed any place like Champaran. Then how come he landed in Champaran? He had gone to the December 1916 annual convention of the Indian National Congress Party in Lucknow. Now it's interesting to know that in 1916, in January, Indian Muslim League and Congress they held their convention together in Lucknow, and it was here that the Lucknow Pact was signed. Some 2,301 delegates and many other visitors were there in Lucknow participating in this National Congress, Indian National Congress Party's convention, annual convention. During the proceedings, Gandhi recounted, a peasant came up to me, looking like any other peasant in India, poor and emaciated, and said, I am Rajkumar Shukla. I am from Champaran, and I want you to come to my district. Gandhi had never heard of the place. It was in the foothills of the towering Himalayas near the kingdom of Nepal. As Rajkumar Shukla narrated, under an ancient arrangements, the Champaran peasants were sharecroppers. Now, sharecroppers are those farmers who do not own the land, they work in the land, they till the land as tenants, and they have to pay the rent. In this case, Indian peasants were sharecroppers and the lands were owned by the British landlords. Rajkumar Shukla was one of them. He was illiterate but resolute, determined. He had come to the Congress session to complain about the injustice of the landlord system in Bihar, and somebody had said, speak to Gandhi. Gandhi told Shukla he had an appointment in Kanpur and was also committed to go to other parts of India. Shukla accompanied him everywhere. Then Gandhi returned to his ashram near Ahmedabad. Shukla followed him to the ashram. For weeks, he never left Gandhi's side. Fix a date, he begged. Impressed by the sharecropper's tenacity and story, Gandhi said, I have to be in Calcutta on such and such a date. Come and meet me and take me from there. So you see, Rajkumar Shukla had no idea how he would be held in the Indian National Congress convention. But he somehow had some hopes that maybe somebody would help him. So he went there, he attended the convention, and he must have asked several people for help. But it was Gandhi who listened to his story and impressed by his tenacity, his determination, he agreed to visit his place. Months passed. Shukla was sitting on his haunches at the appointed spot in Calcutta when Gandhiji arrived. He waited till Gandhi was free. Then the two of them boarded a train for the city of Patna in Bihar. There, Shuklaji led him to the house of a lawyer named Rajendra Prasad, who later became president of the Congress Party and also of India. Rajendra Prasad was out of town, but the servants knew Shukla as a poor yeoman who pestered their master to help the indigo sharecroppers. So they let him stay on the grounds with his companion Gandhi, whom they took to be another peasant. But Gandhi was not permitted to draw water from the well, lest some drops from his bucket pollute the entire source. How did they know that Gandhi was not an untouchable? This incident speaks volumes about Gandhiji, how he looked, about his appearance. See, at Rajendra Prasad's house, the servants took him to be another peasant, and they also did not allow him to fetch water from the well. They were not sure that he was an upper caste. He might have been a lower caste and untouchable. So they did not allow him to fetch water. And also the two, Rajkumar Shukla and Gandhiji, they slept in the veranda outside the house of Rajendra Prasad the entire night. Anyway, Gandhiji decided to go to Muzaffarpur first, which was en route to Champaran, to obtain more complete information about conditions than Shukla was capable of imparting. Rajkumar Shukla had told Gandhiji a great deal about the problem, but Gandhiji was not satisfied. He wanted more information on the issue. And so he went to Muzaffarpur. Now, why Muzaffarpur? Because in Muzaffarpur lived J.B. Kriplani. So he had telegrammed Professor J.B. Kriplani of the Arts College in Muzaffarpur. He had already met him at Tagore's Shantiniketan school. So he informed Professor J.B. Kriplani that he would be reaching Muzaffarpur. The train arrived at midnight 15, 1917. Kriplani was waiting at the station with a large body of students at the station. Gandhiji stayed there for 2 days in the home of Professor Malkani, a teacher in a government school. So it was great of Professor Kriplani that he was there to receive Gandhiji at Muzaffarpur railway station. And Gandhiji recalls that it was an extraordinary thing in those days for a government professor to harbor a man like me. In smaller localities, the Indians were afraid to show sympathy for advocates of Home Rule. By this time, a Home Rule League was already formed. Mrs. Annie Besant, if you have heard of her, was the president of a Home Rule League, and many leaders, many Congress workers had joined Home Rule Leagues. Gandhiji was also an advocate of Home Rule, and thus he was uh, he was in confrontation with the British already. And those days, people avoided any unpleasantness, so they avoided advocates of Home Rule. I'm sorry. But Professor Malkani was brave. He harbored Gandhiji in his house. He allowed him to stay in his house. The news of Gandhi's advent and of the nature of his mission spread quickly through Muzaffarpur and to Champaran. Sharecroppers from the Champaran began arriving on foot and by conveyance to see their champion Mahatma Gandhi. Muzaffarpur lawyers called on Gandhi to brief him. They frequently represented peasant group in court. They told him about their cases and reported the size of their fee. So you see, on their way to Champaran, Gandhiji has still not reached Champaran, and he has met several people. And Gandhiji has already brought together people from various sections of the society. See, the peasants, the tenants, the illiterate, common men, and then the intelligentsia, The intellectuals, lawyers, teachers, professors, they all were already mobilized before Gandhiji even stepped in Champaran. While speaking to the lawyers, he gathered a lot of information, and when Gandhiji asked them if they charged any fees, the lawyers told him that they take a considerable size of fee. Gandhiji was not happy about it, and he chided the lawyers for collecting big fee from the sharecroppers. He said, "I have come to the conclusion that we should stop going to law courts. Taking such cases to the courts does little good. Where the peasants are so crushed and fear stricken, law courts are useless. The real relief for them is to be free from fear." So, you see, dear students, this is the mantra Gandhiji gave. The real relief to the peasants is to be free from fear. Money, refund of their compensation comes later. The first thing is that these people should be freed from the fear. As I have already told you, most of the arable land in the Champaran district was divided into large estates owned by Englishmen and worked by Indian tenants. The chief commercial crop was indigo. The landlords compelled all tenants to plant 3/20ths or 15% of their holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent. This was done by long-term contract. Here lies the problem. The sharecroppers did not like this arrangement. Growing indigo was never their cup of tea. They never liked growing indigo because they believed that growing indigo, the cultivation of indigo, renders the soil infertile. But they had to grow it because their lords ordered them. And they were growing it, and they might have continued to grow it for another 20 years, 50 years. But presently, the landlords learned that Germany had developed synthetic indigo, and so the demand for natural indigo dropped. They thereupon obtained agreements from the sharecroppers to pay them compensation for being released from the 15% arrangement. So you see, students, how sly and how wicked they were. They knew themselves that indigo was not required to be grown, but they obtained agreements from the sharecroppers that if they did not want to grow indigo, if they wanted to be freed from this contract, they must pay them compensation. The sharecropping arrangement was irksome to the peasants, and many signed willingly. They wanted to get rid of this arrangement. So when they found this option, that if they paid the compensation fees, they may be relieved, they may be released from this contract, they willingly and immediately paid them. They signed the new contract. Those who resisted engaged lawyers. The landlords hired thugs. Meanwhile, the information about synthetic indigo reached the illiterate peasants who had already signed, and they wanted their money back. They thought that they were cheated, that the British had done wrong with them. They learned that Germany had developed the synthetic indigo, and the indigo was no longer in demand. They felt bad that they were still asked to pay compensation to the British landlords, and so they wanted their money back, their compensation money back. At this point, Gandhi arrived in Champaran. So the problem now you have understood, that the sharecroppers uh, were deceived into paying compensation for releasing them from the 15% contract. They paid, then they learned that they were uh, they were ill treated, that wrong had been done to them, and so they wanted their money back. And so they were going to courts, and Rajkumar Shukla also went to Lucknow, believing that somebody would help them. The Indian National Congress Party will help them. So Gandhiji arrived in the scene. At this point, Gandhiji arrived in Champaran. Now, what method did Gandhiji adopt? If you were in Gandhiji's place, what would you have done, students? Yes, of course. The best thing is, first of all, to analyze the situation, how grave the situation was, and also to get the facts right. Gandhiji also did the same thing. He began by trying to get the facts. First, he visited the secretary of the British Landlords Association. The secretary told him that they could give no information to an outsider. Gandhi ji answered that he was no outsider, he was an Indian. Look at the attitude of that secretary. They could give no information to an outsider. Gandhi ji was like amused. He said he was no outsider. He was very much part of that place. Anyway, next Gandhi called on the British official commissioner of the Tirhut division in which the Champaran district lay. You may be aware that in our country uh, there are states, and then the states are divided into divisions, and then divisions are further divided into districts. Districts are divided into tehsils, and then talukas, and then blocks, then villages. So a division, you understand it, uh, three, four, five districts are taken together. It's an administrative unit. So Champaran was a district. It lied in Tirhut division. So Gandhiji went and met the commissioner, the British official commissioner of the Tirhut division. The highest officer at divisional level is a commissioner. The commissioner, Gandhiji reports, proceeded to bully me and advised me to forthwith leave Tirhut. You understand? The commissioner proceeded to bully him. He was like, the commissioner might also have been a little surprised. How dare an Indian represent the miseries of the peasants? It had never happened, never ever in the history that people approached such a senior officer about the injustice meted out to the Indians, the poor peasants. And he undermined Gandhiji's caliber, Gandhiji's stature. He probably did not know who Gandhiji was. The commissioner proceeded to bully me, Gandhiji reports, and advised me forthwith to leave Tirhut. Gandhiji did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. Several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhi. And if you want to understand how many people and what must have been the scene there, you can watch Richard Attenborough's Gandhi. This episode is covered in that movie. Gandhiji arrives in Motihari, and there's a large crowd, throng of people, multitudes who had come to greet Gandhiji at the railway station. The British officials they were baffled. They had not imagined such a situation to occur. And dear students, I would like to tell you that if you watch this movie, Gandhi, and if you watch this episode, you'll find two officers there, two police officers. One of them, one of the characters is played by the same man who played the captain in Titanic, Captain Smith, if you remember, in Titanic. Uh, The role played by Captain Smith uh, is the same person who plays one of the officials in this Richard Attenborough's Gandhi. So you watch this episode, it would be interesting. So Gandhiji did not leave. Instead, he proceeded to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. Several lawyers accompanied him. At the railway station, a vast multitude greeted Gandhi. He went to a house and, using that house as headquarters, continued his investigations. A report came in. So Gandhiji, he organized investigations. So Gandhiji himself went to the peasants and he listened to their tales of